Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into a part of your immune system you've probably never thought much about, but it's working for you 24/7. We're talking about the neutrophil, the unsung hero in the constant war happening inside your body.
And just to give you an idea of the sheer scale we're dealing with, your body makes 100 billion of these cells every single day. It's an unbelievable number, and it makes them the most common type of white blood cell you have.
So what's their job? Well, think of them as the special forces of your immune system. Whenever there's trouble, like a cut or an infection, they are the very first ones to get the call and arrive on the scene, ready to fight.
All right, so to really get a handle on how powerful these cells are, here's what we're going to cover. We'll look at their role as those first responders, then we'll get into their three main weapons. We'll also see what happens when you have too many or too few, and finally we'll unpack why they're both a blessing and a curse.
So how exactly do these microscopic soldiers take out the enemy? Well, it turns out they have a seriously impressive and, well, lethal set of tools to work with.
Their first move is something called phagocytosis, which is basically a real-life game of Pac-Man. They follow chemical trails left by bacteria, hunt them down, and then literally eat them whole, trapping the invader inside to be dissolved.
But just eating their enemies isn't their only trick. If they're outnumbered or facing a tougher foe, they can switch to chemical warfare. This is called degranulation, and it's where they release these tiny, pre-packaged bombs of toxic chemicals.
And what's inside these little chemical grenades is pretty wild. They've got stuff that steals essential nutrients from bacteria, effectively starving them. They have enzymes that dissolve their cell walls. Some punch holes right through them, and they can even create a substance that's a lot like bleach. It's an all-out assault from every angle.
Okay, and for their final act, their most dramatic and honestly most metal tactic, neutrophils can basically go kamikaze. It's a process called netosis, and it's the ultimate sacrifice.
Just look at this. The cell literally self-destructs, exploding and throwing out a sticky net made of its own DNA. This web is a death trap. It tangles up huge groups of bacteria and fungi, stopping them in their tracks so they can be killed. What a way to go!
So we've seen just how powerful these cells are. But what happens when the body calls up too many of them? You know, a strong army is good, but when it gets too big and overactive, that can be a sign of a real problem.
That condition is called neutrophilia, and it's really important to get this. Neutrophilia isn't a disease. It's more like your body's check engine light. It's a loud and clear signal that something else is wrong, and your immune system is going into overdrive.
And it's actually pretty easy to spot with a simple blood test. You see, the normal range is somewhere between 1,500 and 8,000 per microliter of blood. With neutrophilia, that count jumps way up, telling doctors your immune system is in high gear.
So what sets off this alarm? Well, the number one cause is a bacterial infection. This is exactly why your doctor takes your blood when you have a high fever. But it can also be a sign of chronic inflammation, major tissue damage, like from a heart attack, or even certain cancers. It gives doctors a huge clue about what's going on.
Okay, so having too many neutrophils is a warning sign. But what about the opposite problem? What happens when you don't have enough of these defenders? Well, that's a much more dangerous situation.
This is called neutropenia, and it's a state where your body's first line of defense is basically gone. You're left wide open. The most severe version, where the count drops to almost zero, is called agranulocytosis. And a low count like this is incredibly serious. As soon as your numbers dip below 1,500, your infection risk skyrockets. And if it falls below 100, suddenly even the harmless bacteria that live on your skin all the time can cause a massive, life-threatening infection.
Now, one of the main reasons people develop neutropenia is from cancer treatments. Things like chemotherapy and radiation can wipe out the bone marrow's ability to make these cells. And this is why, if you know someone going through chemo, it's so important to understand this risk. A simple fever for a person with neutropenia is a true medical emergency.
To cut down on the risk of getting an infection from food, patients are often put on a special neutropenic diet. And the idea is pretty simple. Get rid of any potential microbes. That means no raw or undercooked foods, so sushi and rare steaks are out. No raw veggies or salads. It's all about sticking to foods that are thoroughly cooked and safely packaged.
So this brings us to the most fascinating and crucial point about these cells. Neutrophils are absolutely essential for us to survive, there's no question, but their incredible power can be turned against our own bodies, making them a true double-edged sword.
On one side, they are our greatest protectors, but on the other, their take-no-prisoners approach can cause a ton of collateral damage. And you have to realize this isn't a mistake. It's part of their design. Those same chemical weapons that destroy bacteria can also damage our own healthy tissue. And those DNA nets, while amazing at trapping germs, they can also trigger dangerous blood clots and fuel the chronic inflammation behind a lot of diseases.
Which leaves us with a really interesting thought to end on. What if the next big breakthrough in medicine isn't just about finding new drugs to kill germs? What if it's about learning how to better control, how to tame the incredibly powerful defenders that are already inside us? How do we get all the benefit of their power without becoming a victim of their friendly fire?